So this year, his grade 5 year, we got our appointment that we were supposed to have when he was in grade 2 or 3. Anyways, originally we were supposed to have it when he was 6, and that didn't happen. Then we were supposed to have it when he was 8, and that one didn't happen. And so then we got this one, and he was 10 at this appointment. And so we went back into the appointment, and because I was having the appointment done for my youngest child too, we were checking to see if she had autism. It was a 2-day appointment, because if you've gone to the KCC or Kinsman's Children's Center, it's the long form of it, to have an assessment, you know it's a very long process. It takes about 6 to 8 hours for them to do. It's not an easy assessment. It's not just simple. They want to make sure that it's thorough, and they want to make sure that they've observed your child enough to be able to gain this stuff. And I'm glad that they did, because otherwise I didn't want it to repeat the appointment we went to when he was 3 years old. I didn't want to come out of there with no answers. So we went back to the Kinsman's Children's Center, like I said, and we did the assessment. And out of that assessment, they redid the psyche educational evaluation. And sorry, didn't mean to move my camera. I think we're still twisted. Sorry about that, guys. So when they redid the psyche educational evaluation, we were hoping that things would have changed, because now he was 10. And so that's a big difference from when he was 3 and then when he was 6. Because if you remember from, I think it was video 2, we discussed him having a psyche educational evaluation done in school. So they redid the psyche educational evaluation, and nothing changed. Everything was still the same. He was still delayed in all aspects. He actually went down in some of his percentiles. Some of the things that he would have been like 30 percentile before, he was now 15 percentile. Some of the stuff that he was 5 percentile, he was in the 1 percentile. And so it wasn't good. Basically, the way that they looked at it is there was no change. There was one area that he did actually improve in, and I think that has to do with the fact that he is a video game aholic. If there's a video game out there, he's playing it. He loves video games. And anyways, it did increase slightly on that one, but not enough to actually change his whole score of things. So they came to us after their full assessment. I won't get into details on their full assessment. If that is something that you're interested in knowing how that full assessment went, then please leave it in the comments, and I will definitely do a video on that. And again, don't forget to subscribe to this video so that you don't miss my upcoming videos on topics of my children and their disabilities. And so anyways, the evaluation, nothing really changed. So at the end of the assessment, they came to me in the observation room, where they all just kind of left us because that's where the toy area was. And they sat down with us and they said, we have good news and we have bad news. And I said, okay, hit me with the good news. I need some good news first. And they said, he doesn't have autism. He's not showing signs for autism. And I'm like, thank goodness, thank you. But they said, but we have come to a diagnosis. And I said, okay, and what's that? And they said, Carson has an intellectual disability. And I went, okay, I can handle that. I didn't know what an intellectual disability was at that time. And I came home. I didn't even ask them questions. They told me that he would qualify for the disability tax credit. He would qualify for community living service delivery. And he would qualify for cognitive disability strategies, which were two different fundings that would give me money for respite so that I could get his pull-ups that he was requiring, because at the age of 10 he's still in pull-ups. He's actually, yes, he's still in pull-ups now, and he's 11 now. He just turned 11 in December. Yeah, he just turned 11 in December. So when he's still in pull-ups, and a lot of people say, well, just throw him out. Like, what are you talking? Why is your 11-year-old still in pull-ups? He's 11. And I said, yes, he may be physically 11. Mentally, he's not 11. In some aspects on the assessment that KCC did, in some aspects, he is still at the developmental age of 2. In other aspects of things, he is at the developmental age of a 5-year-old. And in some, he's at about a 7-year-old. But he is not close to his developmental, or to his physical age in anything. So that is why we're still in pull-ups. It's not because he's choosing to be in pull-ups. And he likes being in pull-ups. He's in pull-ups because he physically cannot make it to the washroom at night. During the day, he is in underwear, but he does still have the occasional accident during the day. And I've learned over the time just to clean him up and go on our day. We do reward days, like rewards for if he keeps his underwear clean and dry. I'm trying to do everything in my power to get him to keep him clean and dry. But he is not physically able to process what I'm asking him all the time. So they provide, like, his pull-ups. They provide the transportation to all of our medical appointments, because we live 2.5 hours away from any of our medical appointments. And they supply our respite so that I can have a physical break for both my children and be able to get out with my husband and do something with just the two of us, because when you have special needs kids, it doesn't come easily to be able just to go out and do your own thing. I never have. My life has always revolved around my children, and it always will revolve around my children. But as they told me, if you don't take the chance to have a break and get away from it, especially since I have a child with a intellectual disability, as well as a child with autism and a teenager. But those will be other videos to come. So they told me that they would qualify for all of that stuff, and they filled out the paperwork for the government so that we could get the disability. And I left, not asking any questions, confused and a little devastated. We now had a name to what was causing Carson's issues. So I went home and I Googled it. Don't ever Google a diagnosis if you don't want to know. Google can be cruel, as I found out. When I put in intellectual disability, it came back with old terminology for an intellectual disability was mental retardation. I hate that word. Hate it with a passion. I do not agree with being called retarded. And to this day, some people will say, oh, that's retarded, or you're retarded. And I'll say, don't you say that. That is the worst thing you could say. I do not like that word. I always preferred physical impairment or something like that. And so they just, basically an intellectual disability, according to Google, was a nicer way of saying mental retardation. And I was reading up on it, and it said that he would have a chance to be able to live a life, but probably always needing to be assisted. And I didn't even want to look at it anymore. I closed my laptop and I was mad. But the more and more I got thinking about it, the more and more I cried. Because he's 11 years old, and sorry, I don't mean to get emotional, but he's 11 years old and he is still having bowel issues and pooping his pants. He is he's still in pull-ups at night. He can't bathe himself. He can't pour the water himself. He can't set the right temperature. He forgets to take off his clothing to get into the bathtub. So you have to remind him you have to take off your clothes. He doesn't know how to wash his own hair or his body. When he's sitting in the tub, he just sits there lost, not knowing what to do. And I've told him time after time after time how to wash his body, how to wash his hair, but he just can't physically do it. And when he's done, you have to tell him to pull the plug from the bathtub to drain the bathtub. And he can get out of the bathtub, but then you have to help him dry himself off because he can't dry his own body. So you help him to dry himself off and get him dressed. Because after a bath, when his skin is wet, he struggles something fierce to try to pull on his clothes. So he can't do it. So I have to help him do it. He never tells you when he's hungry. Never once will he come to you and say, "Mommy, I'm hungry." He just doesn't come to you. So you have to always ask him, "Are you hungry?" Or you have to tell him, "Okay, it's breakfast time, you need to eat. It's lunchtime, you need to eat. It's supper time, you need to eat." He won't ask you for a drink. He will go all day without a drink or food if you don't ask him. Like in the summertime, we will set out trays of food. And it's basically help yourself to it as you want it. It's way too hot to cook in the house. He won't touch it. And on top of him not touching it because he doesn't recognize that he needs to eat, he has that sensory delay. So he doesn't like to eat a lot of foods. He is extremely picky in what he eats. Extremely picky. He does not like a lot of meat. He does not like, he likes carrots. If you put brown sugar on them, and you cook them. He likes cooked peas and carrots, but he will not eat any other vegetables, and he does not like any fruit. We're starting to work on getting him to accept some of the different fruits, but he really does not like any fruit, vegetables. His diet is very minimal. We have to have him on a multivitamin that is complete in all the nutrients and minerals that he would be lacking in his daily meals. And he's on a Restore-Lax to help him with his bowling issues, because with him having his bowling issues for as long as he has, they discovered that he was constipated. Severely constipated. He has such a big impaction, which very well could be because of his intellectual disability and his inability to understand things. But regardless of the fact whether it was due to that or something else, they now have to work on his bowels. And so The way the gastrointestinal specialist explained it to me is he has stretched his bowels. And now we need to shrink the bowels. And we need to get rid of everything that is stuck in his bowels. And the only way to do that is to have it come out. So we are having to give him Restorelax, which he's been on for over a year now. But at this last appointment, the gastrointestinal specialist has increased his dose from 1 capful, which 1 capful is already an adult's dose. We've increased it to 2 capfuls. And when we have to do the clean out process to get his bowels working again, because he's impacted too much, we have to give him a full capful every hour until he can release it. And that can take up to 3 days to get everything to release. And you got to stay close. You got to stay at home. You got to stay close to a toilet because he's in the bathroom all day long, basically. And when you only have one bathroom, that sucks. But anyways. So, now that we have the intellectual disability diagnosis, sorry guys, my chair was a little too high. We will be involved with the Kinsman's Children's Center for many more years to come. They are going to reassess him later on in life. I think he needs to be reassessed in 6 years, I think it is, just before he turns 18. So he's 11 now, so yeah, he'll be 17. They want to reassess him at that point in time, and see where his life skills are, so that they know what kind of things they need to look at going into adult life. He will always be on a modified program with school. Going into high school, he's going to be on a modified program. And he may not graduate high school with an academic certificate. He's going to get or he possibly could, I'm not saying he's going to, but he very well possibly could just get a certificate of completion of grade 12. So he'll still graduate with his grade 12 class. It won't be a certificate that he can use to go off to university. Chances are, they've already told me that the chances of Carson being able to live outside of the house unassisted are slim right now. And the chances of him always needing to be in a facility, like a group home or something like that, that is assisted. They could assist him with his every day-to-day life skills, is something that is chances are what's going to happen. But I am in no rush whatsoever for any of my children to leave my house. So he can stay at home for as long as he wants and as long as he needs. And as he gets to be 18, then it will turn into, his disability will turn over to him. And he will get another program that will kick in that will, he can use to pay rent and have his, spending money and that kind of stuff. But that's something that I don't want to look at right now, because he's only 11 right now. So we'll look at that when the time comes to look at that. That's not really relevant or important to me right now, right? What's important is where he is right now and how he's growing. And how, trying to get him to socialize, trying to get him out of pull-ups, trying to get him to use the toilet and that kind of stuff, and get him to be able to do the basic things that he needs, because on top of him not being able to shower himself and bathe himself, he's unable to clean himself when he has a bowel movement. So he still requires assistance in making sure that he is clean. So I have to help him to wipe. But that is something that a parent just does, because you're the parent and you love your children dearly, and you'll do anything and everything for your children. And that's one thing, if he requires help to do, that's one thing I will help him. We are working on getting him to become independent in doing it himself. But he processes things a lot differently, so it's a very slow process to get him to do it. But we're working on it, and it is beginning. The other thing with him is he will try to come out wearing clothes that are way too small on him. Like, he'll try to wear clothing that would have fit him when he was 6. And he's 11 now, so they're not going to fit him. They're like shorts on him. But if they fit him in the waist, he figures they fit. And they don't. They don't fit. He will try to wear clothing that he's wore for the last couple of days. So you have to tell him, no, you got to go get clean clothes on, and he'll come out with clothes that are stained. It takes him a long time in the morning to get ready for school. It takes him about 20 to 25 minutes in the morning to get up and get dressed. So I have to make sure that he's up well in advance for what he needs to be, because he needs to be on a bus for 8 o'clock in the morning to get to school. So I have to make sure that he's up well in advance and he has lots of time to get ready, because he has problems where if you change a routine. So we have to we're working on that. He also has sleeping issues. This is another thing that comes in hand with an intellectual disability as well as autism. And he is taking melatonin to help him sleep at night. He does not have a full night's rest. He has very broken sleep. He has a hard time falling asleep at night. That's another struggle that we're dealing with right now. And everything together has just led into his intellectual disability. So, but guys, that is my videos on my son and his intellectual disability. So I thank you for tuning in and watching my video and my channel. And I thank you for subscribing to my channel and following me and my family as we go through with the struggles of his intellectual disability. And I will be making some other videos on his sister, who is 3 and was just diagnosed, or she's 4 now. She was 3 when she was diagnosed with autism. And so please like and subscribe to my videos so that you can continue to follow my family as I go through life with my children with special needs. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.